Who is this man? What is he from? Who are you? I've got answers to all your questions, except the last one.
Okay, I'm done with it.
Anywho, Nameless, also known as Ringface, is our study topic today. There's a lot of memorable villain introductions in literary history, right?
The 91 Chicago Bulls, the 92 Bulls, the 93 Bulls.
So definitely just let me know some of yours in the comments. What makes a memorable villain introduction? Maybe a cackling laugh? Killing someone, just being Darth Vader. Suspense and build-up, maybe. These are all things that have embodied some of the best character introductions in media history, and something this guy has all of. Suspense and build-up leading to killing aplenty. It's crazy because usually with villains, it's obvious, right?
Dinkelberg.
You know with Darth Vader right away, you know with Voldemort right away, you get told about Sauron right away. But what happens when a man comes forth you don't even know is the guy? A literary misstep? Or a stroke of brilliance? You be the judge. Because when we see this man for the first time in The Lady of Light, it's pretty far along in the book at chapter 21. This is crazy, right? Because you don't go 21 chapters without Vader or Voldemort or Sauron, right? And there's 27 chapters in the book, meaning this is an extremely bold move. And no, we're not talking about a situation where he's been mentioned beforehand, but we just haven't visually interacted with him. Chapter 21. The first time we hear about him, see him, period. So, at this point in the novel, we're following with Siegless as she tries to take back her kingdom from an usurper to her throne, Jorvanea Militera. This is happening to the west, whereas the nation of Verloia is fighting off an army of demon worshippers to the core and east. We can really forget them for now. Anywho, Siegless had just, and I say just, fought Jorvaneum in single combat for the throne, which is a huge step forward after the first act of the book where she got absolutely carried by General Veseleth and Lord Haonaseed.
The Cavaliers. We run this league. Nothing gonna stop LeBron James.
I run the pick and roll. That's when I pick up LeBron's laundry and roll it on over to his house.
Girl power, coming of age, self-growth. We are riding big time off all those things going into chapter 21. Siegless now looking like an unstoppable force as she takes her team onwards. Her bold bravado is a breath of fresh air after so many chapters of doubt and unsurety.
My eyes let me see no further than a few steps ahead, once a harsh mist came in to choke me.
And this is where her world gets rocked, where the reader has to rethink everything they thought they knew about the message of her tale.
The inner machinations of my mind are an enigma.
Where we finally see that the army of demon worshippers are more than just a bunch of stormtroopers dying off at every convenience for the sake of the plot. I mean, I kind of wish we got to see more of this. Villains not showing up until the end, more like the concept of final bosses in a lot of video games.
I should use the A button in the select fight.
There's so much dread in finally tasting that great villain, that deathly foe after so long of lingering in suspense and mystery. Chapter 21. Siegless going to protect a group of villagers begging for her aid. Siegless, wishing to right the wrongs of her past as queen, can't say no. So she takes her sprightly band revolving around Call, who's been with her from the start of the book, knights from Reloia, some Lathinian loyalists, and Lathinian villagers that have joined her force. Their numbers are pretty good, and the estimate of the enemy's numbers just aren't. So with the reader riding so high off her victory over Jorvaneum in single combat, you never suspect what's happening next.
It was an odd thing to find yourself in a graveyard.
Up to this point, Siegless has been a ninja over the events of the book. Nighttime excursions, assassinations, escapes with Heonicid and Vesseleth.
Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
Other than the ransacking of the capital at the beginning, nobody can seem to take Siegless off guard. This is what makes the introduction of Nameless so perfect. You've gotten so used to Siegless being crafty in Act 2 that the best way to bring her low is her very own playbook.
Good. Twice the pride, double the fall.
Her group has the village under control, everyone is in position for the oncoming enemy, but nothing was according to plan, not really, not for Siegless, at least. Because it turns out that Nameless had been following Siegless, expecting her, and had been using the entire situation with the villagers and their village as a setup to draw her in from the start. He'd already gotten into the village premises long ago, like Obi-Wan on Padme's ship, and now he makes his introduction from the inside. You know Vader in Rogue One? It comes off some kind of tough because he's challenging a mob by his own some lonesome. This is something we don't really ever see in The Lady of Light because of the more realistic tone. You wouldn't want to have to take two people at once in a real fight without any magical powers or anything like that, right? Same thing applies here. This thought isn't coming to mind immediately when you're reading, but it just shows how much this introduction pays back in retrospect. Nameless didn't take Siegless or her knights as a threat in the slightest, because he is the threat. Let's read a snippet from the book. Call and I started to march towards the action to aid in the battle, but that was when a shadow flew through the air. He took a hit to the head, so hard that it knocked off his helmet. He flipped around through the air before crashing down. He was down for the count. Calling Nameless a shadow is so good because a paragraph before, when a knight is delivering word to Siegless that they hold the heavy advantage in numbers.
There are too many of them. What are we going to do?
The Cavaliers. We run this league. Nothing gonna stop LeBron James.
We run an offense called hot potato. LeBron throws us the ball, we throw it right back. Hot potato.
Concerning the enemy, it never draws on your head what you'll be reading in just a few lines. The adrenaline is going immediately because not only has Siegless finally been outmaneuvered in some way, but finally one of Siegless's big three allies has been brought low. That we've watched with her from the beginning, that nobody has really been able to touch before now. Nameless is the villain that comes along late so that he can crush everything the hero has become. Imagine if Vader stopped Luke from destroying the Death Star. Imagine if Gollum was too much for Frodo. Usually a villain is set up early, right? As someone for your hero to grow and defeat. And that's why I love Nameless so much. Because life is never that easy where you can just work hard to overcome a steady, unchanging obstacle, but life always throws Hail Marys at you from beginning to end. And that is the subversion of the norm, the mirror of reality, that makes Ringface's introduction so good.
Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
That's why it had to come after Siegless's biggest accomplishment. of taking the man who stole her throne in single combat, finally. This man is the embodiment of dream crushing in the flesh.
Breaking news on SportsCenter this morning, the Lakers and Mavericks making it a blockbuster night. Luka Doncic headed to the Lakers, Anthony Davis headed to the Mavericks.
But even then, despite the initial, oh shoot, feeling of seeing the rug pulled out, the entire book building up just to backstab you, you just don't really realize the effect the man across you is going to have on the rest of the book. What the hell was standing before me? To quote the Lady of Light, a man in pure black cut deep into my soul with a look far worse than I'd ever imagined a demon to hold. Before I could say anything, he ran towards me, but as a knight ran to protect me with a swing, the demon shuffle-stepped out of the way of the swing with ease. I didn't yet know what we were dealing with, so I tried to take a swing. He stopped it right in place and kicked me back so far it took a second to wrap my head around what had just happened. I crashed into a post and saw the demon fending off 4 knights now, killing one, wounding another, dancing around all 3 with a blend of power and speed I hadn't seen since Veseleth or Haonaseed had fought. And once again, Siegless's cunning stealth has been hit by karma, her feel-good vibes crushed, her streak of having an untouchable Big 3 has been humiliated, and now her strength of always having the best guy on the metaphorical court is long gone.
The Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions, the first title in franchise history.
The entire first act of the book, it was so much fun to watch Veseleth and Haonaseed go ham to keep Siegless safe. But now Siegless has to find out what it's like to get reversed on.
Okay, I'm done with it.
And the reader gets to feel that now too. Just brilliance incarnate in this chapter, and this is all just covering the first 2 paragraphs. All this depth, all this thematic delicacy, all this lore. This is what any good villain introduction should strive to do. Vader needed a few moments. Sauron needed a few moments, and in the same way, Ringface only needed a few moments to cement his seal on the entirety of the book he calls home. 2 paragraphs. I think it's an injustice to go beyond that, as great as watching the carnage to follow is, but just 2 paragraphs, that's all Nameless needs as an introduction.
Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
I wanted to represent him in the best way I humanly could, and I think talking about how immediate the punch Ringface gives is the best way I could. Both thematically and, well, literally. His first impression is killer. Can you see why the introduction of Nameless and the Lady of Light is my favorite villain introduction ever? Did anything stick out about him for you all too? Thanks for watching. Love you all. Lights out.